Presidential candidate John Kasich is now touting an idea for spreading Judeo-Christian Western values, which to my mind would make us almost as intolerant as ISIS. Here's what he said.
I will consolidate them into a new agency that has a clear mandate to promote the core Judeo-Christian Western values that we and our friends and allies share, the values of human rights, the values of democracy, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and freedom of association.
I want to ask Tony Perkins about that. He's the president of the Family Research Council, a conservative policy and lobbying organization. Tony, thanks for being here. I've been favorably disposed toward John Kasich from what I've seen of him thus far in the campaign, but that disappointed me. What was your reaction?
Well, good morning, Michael. I actually would have to agree with you on that. I don't think we need more government. I think government's the problem. We don't need government to promote Judeo-Christian values. What we need are government leaders that respect our constitutional freedoms of the freedom of religion, and that means the freedom of expression, which has been consistently under attack under the last 7 years of this administration. So we need elected leaders that are committed to upholding and living by the Constitution.
I know that Governor Kasich walked back a portion of that, but it focused more, I think, on what you just said, which is the establishment of a new agency or arm of the bureaucracy. That wasn't the part that was so troublesome to me. The troublesome part was that we're now going to seek to expand our religious interpretation, so-called Judeo-Christian values. That plays right into the hands of ISIS. That's the part that I was finding problematic.
Right. Well, Michael, let me be very clear and go on the record here. I don't want a government that embraces a religion and promotes a religion. What I want is a government that respects religion, which is what we are supposed to have. I don't want a government that is exporting their brand of Christianity or anything else. What I do want is a government, and not just me, but millions of Americans, a government that respects the right of Christians to live according to their faith and take that abroad. And we do want those principles of religious freedom. That's not an American right. That's a fundamental human right. Even the United Nations recognizes that. And it should be a factor in our foreign policy that we expect other nations to respect the human right of the religious freedom of religion, which this administration has not done.
Okay, and I think we're saying the same thing. I would just expand it to say freedom of religion or even freedom from religion, because you and I both know what the Establishment Clause says. Let me ask you about a related subject, the Syrian refugee situation. How does Tony Perkins look at that? Should we be letting them in?
Well, I think what was expressed by Congress this week and echoed by the American people, the concern over the president throwing open the door to Syrian refugees, was confirmed by the French Prime Minister yesterday, who said the attacks, the terrorists that did the attacks there last week, used the crisis created by the Syrian conflict to slip into the country. Look, we have an obligation to protect Americans. Now, I think what Congress did was reasonable. Slow down this process, make sure we're vetting them, and we let those who meet the criteria into this country. I would say the president has imposed a reverse religious test in some ways, that opposite of what some have called for.
How so?
When you look at who's come into this, well, when you look at who's come in under the president's policy, 97% of them have been Muslim, 2.5% Christian, and if you look at who ISIS is targeting, extermination, genocide, it's Christians, it's Yazidis, it's other religious minorities. They, under our own law, Michael, they should be given a higher priority, and that is a factor. Religious persecution is a factor for who is a refugee in this country.
I only have 30 seconds left with you, but isn't that a reflection of the fact that Christians are few and far between in that part of the world?
No, they're 10% of the population in Syria. That should at least be reflected in the refugees who are coming into this country, and it's not.
Tony Perkins, thank you so much for being here.